Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott, and today is a very exciting, very special show. Today I'm joined by Dorcus Hope, and I'll do some introductions here in a second, but I just want to set the stage, for this because this is the Entrepreneurial Journey podcast, and the idea is, how do you build $1 million business? And one of the things that I believe in along this journey is that you have to give back. You have to have a purpose greater than the purpose of your business. And no matter what you're doing, no matter where you're at, giving back to charitable causes, noble causes, giving back to things that you believe in is vastly important. But also giving back to things makes the people around you have a common purpose and a common goal, and a goal that's bigger than yourself. And so that's what I love about being on the entrepreneurial journey is how do we change the lives of those around us? And one of the things I love is if you're in business today and nobody knows you're in business, or if you were to go out of business and nobody notices, what impact did you have on the world? Was there a point for you to be in business? And so I love that. And, sometimes in business, I've heard people say it's kind of like the stock market, and I would agree to that. Sometimes it's way up and sometimes it's way down. And so people sometimes ask, how do you give? How do you continue to give when things are way down? And I'll tell you that giving when things are way down is where the rubber meets the road. Giving when things are tough is when the rubber meets the road. And so if you're in a tough position, if the jobs aren't paying the way that you want them to, or the collections aren't where you need it to be, or you owe vendor payments, or whatever you owe, supplier payments, you owe whatever you owe. Like for me, at the end of the day, there's nothing more important than giving back. Because I made a decision a long time ago. I wrote 10 rules of business and I wrote them on my wall. And I said, no matter what I go through, if I can't give back, if I can't give to things that I believe in, then I don't want to be in business. And I would rather see the business fail than not give back. And so This is one of those amazing organizations, Dorcus Hope, that I'm so lucky to work with, and that we are lucky to have on the call today. And Dorcus Hope is a nonprofit organization that helps orphan girls in Uganda and helps them escape what we would consider a soft slavery type environment. And one of the most impactful stories that I ever heard was sometimes one of these girls that is in these houses, they are devalued, and they devalue them by taking a knife and cutting the face. And I want you to think today, do you have kids? Do you have girls? And I want you to just close your eyes for a minute and imagine your precious daughter, and imagine her not in your house, in someone else's, and someone grabs that knife and they cut the face of that person to devalue them. And then you open your eyes and you think, wow, how does that impact you? Does that bring tears to your eyes? Does that rock your world? Now, I've shared that story enough times that it doesn't bring tears to my eyes today, but it definitely has in the past. And so one of the things that I really believe in is, what is the impact that we're making? And I love Dorcus Hope because every single dollar that goes to help Dee and her husband John and the organization that they have today helps save one of those girls. And I want you to imagine saving one of your girls, because I have a little daughter who's 8 years old, and I could not imagine that happening to her. That'll actually bring tears to me on this call, so I can't go down that path. But no further ado, I want to introduce the folks on the call today. So we've got Pastor Dave Lundquist, who runs Enbridge, which is our nonprofit, which is how we support the different noble causes across the board. We've got Dee, who runs and has founded Dorcus Hope. And then we've got her husband, John, who participates and helps run the organization too. So I'll just kick it off here and I'll just open it up. And I know we've got a series of questions and interview type format like we love to do here. But would each one of you give a quick introduction? I know that I did quick names, but just a quick introduction.
Dee, why don't you get started? You're muted, D.
I am D or Dorcas, and I am a second grade teacher and a mom. And I love to help people. I love to help to give it back. That's my passion.
John?
I'm John, Dee's husband. Uh, she is pretty much the driving force on this, and my job is to be the supportive structure around her. In my day job, I'm a IT and business manager, and work in a professional audio industry. And so I like to take my organizational skills to help with our nonprofit.
That's awesome. And I'm David Lundquist. I'm the director of Enbridge Global, as Dave said. We started that about 4.5 years ago, almost five, I think, now, where we find great nonprofits, great people doing great works, and we come alongside and support them. And that's what we do with D's Hope.
Awesome, thank you, Dave. John, I've got a question for you. We'll just start off and
Sure.
tell us about D's Hope, the work you do, the people you serve, and how D's Hope got started.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got to start at the very beginning. And I like how you mentioned it's doing charity is what makes something important, and our family, it's the same way. Is we want to be a force for good in the world, and so we started to do that in our as starting out as a young married couple. Dee knew girls in Uganda that were going through what she had gone through, and so we took it as a child at a time, to support them any way that they needed, really, so that they could get education and they could um, experience school and learning. And you can see, as D as a teacher, that's a very important part of our life is education. And so we started to begin this small little support within our own family to help girls. And we started with one of them and two of them, and a couple of years later, four of them. And we're like, this is amazing. This is what we hear as a calling, is to help girls that need it, and to watch them grow, watch them belong to something, have a purpose, watch them become students for the first time. And we'll talk about it later, but go beyond what D's Hope can do today. And so that's kind of the nucleus of how it started, is let's help girls that need help, that that have gone through or are going through what D went through, and change that story for them.
Yeah.
And so in about 2019, we can't do this by ourselves anymore. It's getting too big for us to be the only ones to know about it. And so
Right.
with help of our family and uh, a lot of hard work and just reading books about how to start a nonprofit, we did that. We registered a Washington company, and then spent a while figuring out how to make that a nonprofit corporation and get our 501(c)(3) status. And so that was about in the December of 2019. So like 3 years to get us to that point, where we could actually start to make this a nonprofit charity. Um, and I think that's probably the start of it, of where we started to formalize. Well, what is our vision? What do we want this to be now that we're formally a charity and an entity of something? How do we proceed? And so I think probably that's the roots, or the core, is we're here to help orphan girls, or young women, to get an education and get a better life.
Mm.
Um, and that is our mission, to do that, and we see that by being able to help them with some programs, like getting them school fees. Um, it's really hard to study when you're hungry,
Hmm.
and so that's one thing that we make sure also, is that they have food, they have nutrition, not just the bare minimum, but enough for them to thrive.
Mm.
Um,
Well,
one of the things we did notice too is there's different types of supplies that they need, and getting access to simple things like pencils, paper, notebooks, those types of things that are requirements for them is hard. So we meet them, and we have a team member in Uganda that helps with what school supplies there are. But the school system's way different than anything I've experienced in the United States. I could show up and wear this to school, but there's uniforms there, and they have to be a specific one. So we help them with getting the school uniforms and clothes that they need, so that they won't be turned away.
Wow.
And it's also a different experience because some of their housing situations are a little bit different than what we have here, quite a bit poorer than what we have here. So hygiene's a really big part of what we support for them. Simple things like toothbrushes, medicine if they need it. And then also in very rare instances, some of them do not have permanent housing where they can live, or it's too poor for them to be able to study in there. And
Yeah.
so we help them if find a place or rent a place if that assistance is needed.
So, John, you have how many girls now that you and Dee are taking
Oh,
care of?
yeah, we in 2023 we hit the 30 mark.
Wow.
So
Wow.
coming from 2 to 30 is quite a journey for us. And so we're at that inflection point of now setting up a board of directors, people that we can surround around us to help us grow this, making sure it's sustainable, making sure it's a thriving nonprofit. And so that's kind of where we're at today.
Wow. And all of this started because of Dee's story, Dee's life. And Dee, I think the audience would love to hear a little bit. You know, being a house girl, which I'll have you explain what that means. But your story is such an incredible story. Can you share a little bit about growing up and how you lost your family and became a house girl?
Yes, so my life changed when I was 7 years old. My dad was a pastor at the village where we live at, and one day the soldier came to our house and they wanted my dad to join them. My dad said, I cannot join them. My job to play for people. They told him, you can either join us or you can die with them. So me and my mom were in the back room, and so all I had a big noise. My dad didn't follow us. My dad died over there. They shot him, and me and my mom, that was the day we left our house, and I never get back there, and I don't know where it's at. So my mom and I, we spent, honestly, I don't know how many hours in the bush hiding, and food was so high. Sometimes we don't eat anything, and we just sleep under the tree in the bush. And every time we run, because either they would take me or I was too young for them to take me, but they would take my mom. They would take young girls. Once they come in the teenager and the soldier, they become their wives, and they can have so many girls they want. So we are keeping running and running, and I got malaria and I got really, really sick. There wasn't no medication and got very sick. And my mom thought, there is no way I will survive, and there is no way she can carry me to. So she left me over there to save her life. And the next thing I know, I woke up, I was in the hospital. So some soldier, good soldier who are fighting the other, they took me to the hospital, and once I got better, they sent me to the camp. So there was there is a camp they keep like girls, but at night the soldier will come and grab those girls, take them away, and they become they own them. They become their wife. They can do whatever they want to them. So sometimes on Sundays there will be the people who come in to preach to the people who lives in the camp. So that last maybe like a year for what I remember. And one of the lady told me, would you like to move here and live with me? I mean, laundry, you can do, clean my house, but it would be different. And I was thankful. That was the best thing I ever have that time. So I went and I lived with that family, and eventually that family, they didn't have food anymore, and the husband didn't have a job. They had to move somewhere and they cannot take me. So I went to another family. So that kind of continue going and going. And sometimes I'm just there for them so they can feed me. But at night, they don't have a place for me to sleep in. So I will sleep at their porch outside. And then in the morning, they open the door and I'm there and clean, do laundry, do food. And some of them, some family, they were nice to me. And some family, they were kind of abusing me. But I didn't have any choice to do.
Wow. Wow, Dee.
So the last family I lived before I came here, they were very nice people. And there is no way I can go back and pay them how they treated me. I didn't go to school, but they were not like the other family I've been living with. But I was like, I like the kids I pray with. They go to school and I'm just staying home, do this work, didn't have any school. So I started to church with them. I used to make friends. And I was lucky because there was some youth group coming to America from that church. And I was 7 of them, a chosen one to come to America. But only 2 of us got a visa, me and another boy, because we are the youngest in the group. So I came here. We ended up in Maryland, and it was kind of like a conference, like African conference. And because of my using, they were figured it out. Oh, I'm from Uganda based on my name, and we come from, even we are not related, but we are coming from the same clan. I told them my story and say, would you like to go back? And I say, I don't want to go back to Uganda. And so you can live with us since we share the same last name. People may think we are related. And I was like, okay, I don't have any choice. And we drove all the way from Maryland to Michigan. I lived for a while, and then they found another family for me to live with. And once I turned 18, the family I was living with, actually they put me to go to school because of my age. So I left school in first grade because of my age here. They put me in 8th grade. I didn't know any English. Sometimes you ask me a question, I would say yes. And next time you say something, I'm going to say no. So mine is no, but I know how to say my name if you ask me what's your name. So once I turned 18, they say, well, now you are 18, you can go and live here and get a job. So they put me like in the kind of like nursing home for me to work. I didn't even finish high school. And my teachers at that time, high school teacher, they came to the place where I was living and they told them, oh, she no longer lives here, but they sent them where I live. And one of the teachers asked me, would you like to stay here or would you like to continue going to school? And I say, I want to go to school. I don't want to live here. I'm here because I don't know anywhere to go. I don't know anybody. So, and then she said, okay, I'm taking you to my house. I went to her house and she didn't have any kids, so there was no extra room, but her mother was there. So I started to live with I started to live with her mother with me during the summer, but in winter her mother will go to South Carolina, and then I will go and live with other family. So that teacher, for somehow, her husband is boss, they told my story to her husband is boss. And so her husband is boss. It's a little confusing. They say, oh, we would like to meet her. Well, we ended up going to have dinner with them, and they fell in love with me, and they ended up adopting me.
Wow.
And I I remember my mom took me, and everything is done. She opens the door and she said, well, your sister and your brother can share the room, but this is your room. And that's your bed. I couldn't believe it. I thought, I'm dreaming. I thought this is not real me to have a bedroom and a room, close the door and lock it. I didn't believe it. So that's kind of like my story, how I grew up and how I got here. And I cannot go back and say thank you and, okay, spend this much money on me to give it to you. I rather, because I cannot, I rather help girls who are same situations growing up, because I don't want anybody to experience anything the way I experienced. I don't wish any girl to experience what I went through. So me to give them education, I know they will finish high school and maybe go to the trade school and they get their own job. They have their a house, like a room for them, than somebody abusing them. And that's how they ended up on the street, because they don't know have anywhere to go and get abused with the guys men, because they would say, I can give you where to stay, and the cycle keeping going and keeping having more babies. And that's why I say I want to end it. And that's how I started with. We started with one girl, and once we get to 7 girls, we say we can undo it. We have our own child now, and there is no way we can afford our bills and pay for 7 girls. And that's how this hope was born.
Wow.
That's an amazing story. That's hardcore, and it really puts it in perspective, everything that you've been through, all of those years, and coming to America and the fight and everything that you worked so hard to get here. It just, man, that is, you're amazing, Dee. And that is just such a testament. And, in the US, we don't see anything like that. We don't experience that. So, for you to make it here and, get over here and then have your own room and you have that's an amazing thing. And you have your own child now. And
Yes.
that's boy, girl?
It's a boy.
Okay, boy. How old?
He will be 7 December.
7 in December. That's awesome. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
age. He's very excited to see you and hug you. And this is my favorite age for the kids. And,
Yeah, actually, he was knocking at the door, calling me.
That's cool. That's my favorite age. Well, Dee, thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you, for just being so real with the whole thing, because I know that it's painful and it's hard to talk about. John, can you tell us a little bit about the girls that you guys serve, and maybe share one of the stories with the audience?
Sure. I think that's a hard thing to follow after Dee's story.
It is hard. I didn't even know what to say after that.
So, my turn. I think we started with a place to begin, and with our girls, I think the most important thing, and you heard it from Dee's story, she had no place to belong, no place to have any structure, any continued support, no place to feel safe. And so I guess with all of our girls, we want them to feel that they're part of something, and that they have somebody to talk to. They have an organization that supports them, and so belonging is so important, because it gives them their first purpose in life sometimes. is we're part of this with you.
Mm.
So all of our girls, we like to contact them as much as we can. We have a team that's in Uganda um, that meets with them regularly, and they will go as far as they need to reach them if their living situation changes. Um, part of what we try to do is find girls that want what Dee wants, want to get out of it, the cycle that she was mentioning, and so all of them are committed to learning. We don't uh, have the funds today to be able to say yes to everybody. And so what's unique about the girls that we support is they have support, a little bit of support around them, that we can come and help and fill in the gaps where they needed. They may have a single parent. They may be raised by an older sibling, knowing that they have somebody else that they can talk to is important. So there is, it's not the most needy. It's kind of like right in the middle of somebody that needs help and they don't know how to ask for it, or they don't have an organization that can fit that. So those are where most of the girls that we support fit in, and everything changes all the time. And so some of them may not have family anymore. Some of them, since we've started, are getting older, and they're becoming young ladies. They are learning through school. They're developing their skills, and so I'm gonna tell a story about one particular girl that started with us when we were at the very beginning, and we've got to see her grow and thrive, and this is going to be a story about what's beyond for her, beyond Dee's hope, that what we can reach for today. And so I'm going to talk about Sylvia. She was one of our original girls that we supported, um, but recently her father passed away, and unfortunately her mother has dementia, or some difficulties remembering things as what we could diagnose because there wasn't a doctor involved, forgetting things to the point where she couldn't recognize her own daughter. And that's hard, because that was, we relied on being able to have somebody there that Sylvia could go home to and feel safe. So we're still trying to help her, but a little bit about her. So we looked to see, well, we need to support her differently because of this situation, and so we were able to um, send her to boarding school more than just the day schools, is so that she had a safe place to sleep. We heard Dee's story. It's amazing to have a bed to go home to when you've never had that before, and Sylvia, we were able to give that to her. Um, and so uh, things happen. COVID happens, and we got to experience what that was, the pandemic, for our organization. And um, luckily, we saved enough, and we were good shepherds of our money, and had an emergency fund that could help because school wasn't going on for them, and so we had to supplement learning and food and a place for them for all of the girls at that time to stay. But back to Sylvia. So she went to boarding school, and she was 6 at the time when we started, and now she's about ready to graduate high school. And this is the great part. She's doing great. She's do all of her work is done. Our team member over there is watched her grow, and came to us, um, saying, what's next? This is the first time we've had to make that, you're kind of like learning as we go. What's next in Uganda? That's versus here. Um, and so, like, for us, it might be you're done with high school, you're going to go to college. But that's sometimes out of reach, even from what we can do. But they have a wonderful trade school network. And so now that's what we're looking at for her, is she's beyond what our original intent was to get them to through primary school over there. And She's working on getting into trade schools now and learning a trade, like Dee has learned, um, to be able to support herself, to not be reliant on others, and be an independent woman in Uganda that has broken the cycle that her family has been in for generations. And so she is our example of what it means to have year after year support for these girls and have them come out better than they started or where they could have ever dreamed of,
That's
and give
awesome.
one more to our cause. And so now that's where we're looking at now, is what's going to be next for some of these girls. Some of them, different trade schools, sewing is one of them, learning how to farm, or other types of skills that they have. Um, what are those options for us
Mm.
and for them that we can support? And so that's what we're working on now.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, with just a couple of minutes that we have left, Dee, you were just in Uganda, and I know you were just meeting with the girls. What are some of the things that how we could help as an organization, how we can help you, and what are some of the things that they need here in the next little bit?
Well, some of them, we pay for school tuition, and then we don't pay for the requirements beside having food at school, because we know every every girl can have food at school. But some of them, they ended up sending back home because they paid a full amount of school tuition, but there is other school requirement. They don't have enough books, they don't uniform, they don't of paper. So they will go home and they spend like 2 weeks because they don't have those things to go back to school. So basically it's kind of like we're
Wow.
trying all the kids to be in school, but they don't be in school because of those requirements. So my wish or my hope is next year to meet those who do not have those, cannot afford the requirements to be in school. We
Sure.
can afford to pay for those requirements so they be full-time in school. Also, the thing kind of like touched my heart, and I was like, I cannot believe this. They live like in slum, or when it's hot in summertime, the water from the lake rising up, and honestly, some people, they no longer live there because their house is kind of like water like up here, and they cannot live there anymore. Most of the girls lost their houses, and there was one girl had to take off her shoes, and she had to cross the water to go to like a small room that's her house, and it's not like a building. They made it with woods, and the mom had to rent that place for them to stay. And I was like, what if I get up in the morning and this thing, the wind brought this house and I'm in the water? It was kind of like breaking my heart. And to see them, all 30 of them, they're dancing, they are happy, everybody's happy. They kind of like forgot where they live. And it was kind of like a joy for me. And I was like,
Yeah.
I should be more thankful. These kids, they don't have anything, but they were so happy. They were very thankful. So, yeah, a place for them to live, for them not to worry where next for me to live. I go to school, but I don't have a place to live on. That is what has really touched me.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. That's amazing. So I think, one of the, I mean, we appreciate you guys sharing your story. We appreciate, just the vulnerability that you've shared on this call. Just is so touching, so powerful. One of the things that we'd like to do is do a matching donation. So, to help support Dee's Hope for the next year. What we'd like to say is we will match up to $5,000 of income that comes through the Embridge site. So if you and if Ralph, if you can throw it up on the screen, embridge.global. If you're out there and you're listening and this has touched your heart, listen, I mean, some of the things are so powerful that I've heard. It's really hard to study when you're hungry. That is hardcore. That is really hard to study when you're hungry. And I think about when I'm hungry, it's just easy. I can go to the fridge, grab a snack. I can do whatever. I have too many snacks. I'm trying to cut back on the snacks. But it's really hard to study when you're hungry. Or I can't believe I have my own room. Wow, I can lock the door. Like some of these statements, some of what is experienced, some of these girls that are in Uganda, just the amazing thing that just any dollar will do, that anything will provide is amazing. Like I can't go to school because of the fact that I don't have a ream of paper, or I don't have the pencils, or I don't have the books, or hey, my house slid into the lake because the river rose. So some of these things are, these are just to us, or maybe to some of us, they seem like, hey, it seems so simple. I just run down to the local store and grab it. But for those in Uganda, that's not always the case. So I've thrown the embridge.global website up there. And for the next 2 weeks, we'll leave this out. But anybody who donates, we will match up to $5,000. So go to embridge.global, find Dee's Hope. You just click on it right there, make a donation. And that way we can track it. And we will match up to $5,000, and hopefully we can put $10,000 into Dee's Hope to help support Dee and John and their noble causes that they have in front of them, the 30 girls that they represent. It would be incredible to see that number get to 60 or 120 or 240 or 480. That can grow really, really fast, and we get a little excited because we're entrepreneurs. Dave's thinking slow down, because he always says slow down, but just the amazing work that you guys are doing. So we'd love to throw that out there. Share this on your social networks. Give it a like. Give it a share. Any closing comments or thoughts? Dee, John, Pastor Dave, anybody, any closing thoughts as we bring this in for a landing?
I just want to say I'm so proud of you, Dee, for sharing your story. I know it's emotional, and thank you. Thank you for what you've done and just the vision that God has put in your heart to, in a sense, rescue these 30 girls. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm very thankful for every little things I get. It's to me or to somebody maybe little, but to the girls it's big. So I'm very thankful.
I'll second the thanks. I mean, it's amazing to be part of something like this, and if anybody does want to reach out to us listening to this, we would love to hear from you. And if there's anything that's non-financial that you want to give, maybe time or support for us as we're growing, it's great to have mentors and people to help support around us. And I think that's something that we would very well welcome.
And how can they get a hold of you? Is there a website that they can look up? How can they reach you?
Yeah, they can reach us at deeshope.org.
That is super simple. I'm glad you made that an easy one. That's awesome. deeshope.org. So that's DEESHOPE.org, deeshope.org. And so that's awesome. I hope they connect. We've got a couple of comments here. Pastor Prasad, I believe I'm saying that correctly, says good morning. So thank you for joining in, and thank you for saying good morning. Good morning to you as well. Thank you for joining in on the call. And listen, this was a fantastic call. If you like this, give it a like, give it a share. Follow me on LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm Dave Westcott, and I'd love to connect. We'll see Ralph Home through the website in there for us so that we can see it nice and clear. And we've got the embridge.global website up there for any giving. And we're going to run that for the next 2 weeks. So anything that you give, any dollar you give helps these amazing girls. And I want to just take you back to that where we started this. Just imagine your own daughter in that situation. Just close your eyes for a second and imagine, what is it like to have my own children in that situation? What would you give to see them free? What would you see? What would you give to see them in school? What would you see for them to have dinner? Like, I'm going to have dinner tonight. Some of these, they don't know if they're going to have dinner. They don't know if they're going to go to school tomorrow. So as much of a blessing as we can be, let's do that. The entrepreneurial journey is all about giving back. It's all about our mission, which is change the world. And today we had an amazing call, and we are really changing the world. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your time. We'll see you back next week, same time, 9:15 Pacific Standard Time, every Tuesday. We're here talking about amazing things that have to do with business, giving back, and the entrepreneurial journey. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, this morning, wherever you are located. It was a fantastic call. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.